This is Tom Duty, middle-aged American living in New Jersey near the Lincoln Tunnel. If you were to visit my website, you would type Howdy Doody into Google. You'll find the correct spelling of the famous puppet. You then combine Tom Duty in a Google search for my site. I will have a couple of sentences, my own unscripted words. The rest of this audio will be 100% Rolling Stones. Rolling Stones in the fall of 2015 did an explosive article about rape, University of Virginia. The report was later discredited. During the time it was published to when it was discredited, I accepted it as valid. So I have gone back to try to understand why I got duped. My opinions on this subject will not be in this audio. I will read exclusively the script. Of course, elsewhere on my blog, video blog, wherever, I'll have editorial. However, not in this audio. Secondly, I will, in this series, I will be reading Vanity Fair, was followed up with the University of Virginia rape story a year later. So that's the occasion of me going back, reading this archived New York, archived Rolling Stone story about University of Virginia rape, and I will also read Vanity Fair. In a very short block of text, I have included a roster from both stories, being that it's different publications and different writers, and they use a slightly different style. They name some people in one way, and then in a later reference, it's in a different way. For I can't give an example, but it is confusing. So that very short block of text that I included attached to this YouTube audio is intended to help my listeners. This has been Tom Duty. This is Tom Duty, middle-aged American living in New Jersey near the Lincoln Tunnel. If you were to visit my website, you would type Howdy Doody into Google. You'll find the correct spelling of the famous puppet. You then combine Tom Duty in a Google search for my site. A rape on campus, a brutal assault, and struggle for justice, UVA. Jackie was just starting her freshman year at the university. Of Virginia when she was brutally assaulted by 7 men at a frat party. When she tried to hold them accountable, a whole new kind of abuse began. The Rolling Stones writer, reporter, investigator, media pro woman is Sabrina. Rubin. Erdely. This was published November 19th, 2014. From Rugby Road to Vinegar Hill, we're going to get drunk tonight. The faculty's afraid of us. We know we're in the right. So fill up your cups, your loving cups, as full can be. As long as love and liquor last, we'll drink to the U of V. Rugby Road, traditional Virginia fight song. Sipping from plastic cups, Jackie grimaced, then discreetly spilled her spiked punch onto a sludgy fraternity house floor. The University of Virginia freshman wasn't a drinker, but she didn't want to seem like a goody-goody at her very first frat party. She especially wanted to impress her date, the handsome Phi Kappa Psi brother who brought her here. Jackie was sober, but giddy with discovery. She looked around the room, crammed with rowdy strangers, guzzling beer and dancing to loud music. She smiled at her date, whom we'll call Drew, a good looking junior, or in UVA parley, a third year. And she smiled enticingly back. Want to go upstairs where it's quieter? Drew shouted into her ear. Jackie's head quickened. She took his hand as he threaded them out of the crowded room and up the staircase. For weeks into UVA's 2012 school year, 18-year-old Jackie was crushing it at college. A chatty, straight A achiever from rural Virginia town, she initially felt intimidated by UVA's aura of preppy success. Then throngs of toned, tanned, and overwhelmingly blonde students fanned across the landscape, neoclassical brick buildings, hurrying to classes, clubs, sports, and internships. Part-time jobs, volunteer work, and parties. Jackie's orientation leader had warned that UVA students' schedules were so packed, none of them has time to date people, just hook up. But despite her reservations, Jackie had flung herself into campus life, attending events, joining social clubs, making friends, and now being asked on an actual date. She and Drew had met while working lifeguard shifts together at the university pool, and Jackie had been floored by Drew's invitation to dinner, followed by a date function at his fraternity, Phi Kappa Psi, the upper tier. Fred had a reputation of tremendous wealth, and its imposing large house overlooked a vast manicured field, giving Phi Psi the undisputed best real estate along UVA Fraternity Row, known as Rugby Row. Jackie had taken 3 hours getting ready, straightening her long, dark, wavy hair. She'd congratulated herself on her choice of tasteful red dress and a high neckline, climbing the frat house stairs with Drew. Jackie felt excited. Drew ushered Jackie into a bedroom, shutting the door behind them. The room was pitch black inside. Jackie turned toward Drew, uttering his name, and at that moment, she says, she detected movement in the room and felt someone bumping into her. Jackie began to scream. "Shut up," she heard a man's voice say as a body barreled into her, tipping her backwards and sending herself both crashing through a low glass table. There was a heavy person on top of her, spreading open her thighs, and another kneeling on her hair, hands pinning her arms, sharp strands digging into her back, the excited male voices rising all around her. When yet another hand clamped over her mouth, Jackie bit it. The hand became a fist and punched her in the face. The man surrounding her began to laugh. For a hopeful moment, Jackie wondered if it wasn't some collegiate prank. Perhaps at any second someone would flick on the lights and they'd return to the party. Grab its motherfucking leg, she heard a voice say, and that's when Jackie knew she was going to get raped. She remembers every moment of the 3 hours of agony during which she says 7 men took turns raping her, while 2 more, her date, Drew, and another man, gave instructions and encouragement. She remembers how the spectators, swigging beers, they called each other nicknames, armpit, blanket. She remembers the men, heft, sour reek of alcohol mixed with pugnancy of marijuana. Most of all, Jackie remembers the pain and the pounding that went on and on. As the last man sank into her, Jackie was to recognize him, startled to recognize him. He attended her tiny anthropology discussion group. He looked like he was going to cry or puke as he told the crowd he couldn't get it up. Pussy, the other men jeered. What, she not hot enough for you? Then they engaged him. Don't you want to be a brother? We all had to do it. So do you too. Someone handed her, a classmate, a beer bottle. Jackie started at the young man, silently begging him not to go through with it, and he was shoved the bottle into her. Jackie fell into a stupor mentally, uttering from a brutal tableau, her mind leaving behind the bleeding body under the assault on the floor. When Jackie came to, she was alone. It was after 3 a.m. She painfully rose from the floor and ran shoeless from the room. She emerged to discover the Phi party still surreally underway, but if anyone noticed the barefoot, disheveled girl hurrying down the staircase, beaten, dress spattered with blood, they said nothing. Disoriented, Jackie burst out of the side door, realizing she was lost and dialing a friend, screaming, something bad happened. You need to come find me. Minutes later, her 3 best friends came to campus, 2 boys and a girl whose names are changed, arriving to find Jackie on a nearby street corner, shaking. What did they do to you? What did they make you do? Jackie recalls her friend Randall demanding. Jackie shook her head and began to cry. The group looked at one another in a panic. They knew about Jackie's date. The Phi Psi house loomed behind them. We have to get her to the hospital, Randall said. The other 2 friends, however, weren't convinced. Is that such a good idea? She recalls Cindy asking her reputation. She shot for the next 4 years. And he seconded the opinion, adding that since she and Randall both planned to rush fraternities, they ought to think this through. The three of them launched into a heated discussion about the social prices reporting Jackie's rape, the social prices of reporting Jackie's rape, while Jackie stood beside them, mute in a bloody dress, wishing her only to go back to her dorm room and fall into a deep, forgetful sleep. Detached, Jackie listened as Cindy prevailed over the group. She's going to be the girl who cried rape and will never be allowed into another frat party again. 2 years later, Jackie, now a third year, is worried about what might happen once this article comes out. Greek life is hope. Greek life is huge at UVA, with nearly 1/3 of undergrads belonging to fraternity or sorority. So Jackie fears a backlash could be big. A shit show, predicted her now former friend Randall, who cited his loyalty to his own frat, declining to be interviewed. But he concerns go beyond talking to her alleged assailants and their fraternity. Lots of people have discouraged her from telling her story. Jackie tells me in a pained look, including the trusted UVA dean whom Jackie reported her gang rape allegations more than a year ago. On this deeply loyal campus, even some of Jackie's closest friends have gone public as a tantamount to betrayal. One of my roommates said, "Do you want to be responsible for someone that's going to paint UVA in a bad light?" says Jackie, poking at a vegan burger at a restaurant on the corner of UVA's popular retail strip. But I said, UVA has flown under the radar for so long. Someone has to say something about it, or else it's going to be this system that keeps perpetuating. Jackie frowns. My friend just said, you have to remember where your loyalty lies. From reading headlines today, one might think colleges have suddenly become hotbeds of protest, celebrated anti-rape activists. But most colleges across America, Gentile University of Virginia has no radical feminist culture seeking to upend patriarchy. And there are no red tape wearing protests like Harvard, no sex positive clubs promoting the female orgasm like at Yale, no mattress hauling performance artists like Columbia, and certainly no slut walks. UVA isn't an edgy progressive campus by any stretch. The pinnacles of polite activism in its annual Take Back the Night vigil, which on this campus of 21,000 students attract an audience of less than 500. But the depth of attention isn't because rape doesn't happen in Charlottesville. It's because UVA rape are kept quiet by both students who brush off sexual assaults as regrettable but inevitable casualties of a cherished party culture, and by an administration that critics say is less concerned with protecting students than it is with protecting its own reputation from scandal. Some UVA women, so sickened by the university's culture of hidden sexual violence, have taken to calling it UV rape. University of Virginia thinks they're above the law, says UVA grad victims' rights advocate Liz Sicurio. They go to such lengths to protect themselves. There's a national conversation about sexual assault, but nothing at UVA is changing. Liz Sicurio, with her husband Mike, on the front of Charlottesville's district court in Charlottesville, VA. S. Daniel Carter, who is a former director of public policy for the advocacy group Clergy Center for Security on Campus, is a national expert on college safety. Points out that UVA's sexual assault problems are not much worse than other schools. If anything, he says, the depressing reality is that UVA's situation is likely the norm. Decades of awareness programming haven't budged the prevalence of campus rape. One woman in five is sexually assaulted in college, though only about 12% report it to the police. Spurred by the way of activism, Obama administration has stepped up pressure on colleges, announcing Title IX investigation of 86 schools suspected of denying students their equal rights in education by inadequately handling sexual violence complaints. If found in violation, each school runs the risk of financial penalties, including the nuclear opinion, which has never been deployed, of having federal funding revoked. The University of Virginia is one of 86 schools now under federal investigation, but has more reason to worry than most of its peers because, unlike most schools under scrutiny where complaints are at issue, UVA is one of only 12 schools under sweeping investigation known as compliance review. A productive probe launched by the Department of Education Office of Civil Rights, triggered by concerns above deep-rooted issues. There are targeted efforts to go after very serious concerns, says Office of Civil Rights Assistant Secretary Catherine Lamone. We don't open compliance reviews unless we have something we think merits it. UVA has been complying fully with the investigation, but Carter notes that UVA and other elite schools tend not to notice, respond to criticism, and sanctify tradition above all else. That's common to more prestigious institutions, Carter says. Prestigious is one of the core UVA identity. Although a public school, its grounds of red brick, white column buildings designed by founder Thomas Jefferson radiate old money privilege. Footnote by graffiti of UVA's many secret societies whose insignias are nearly painted everywhere. At $10,000 a year, in-state tuition is a quarter of the cost of the Ivies, but UVA tends to attract affluent students. And though aggressive fundraising boasts an endowment of $5 billion on par with Cornell, wealthy parents are the norm, says former UVA Dean John Fobert. On top of all that, UVA enjoys a reputation as one of the best schools in the country, not to mention a campus so brimming with fun that in 2012, that year of Jackie's rape, Playboy crowned in the nation's number one party school, students hold themselves up to that standard. A studious day, wild by night. The most impressive person on UVA is a person who gets straight A's and goes to all the parties, explains four-year student Brian Head. Partying traditions fuse the decorum of Southern aristocracy with binge drinking. At Cavalier football tailgates, the dress code is girls in pearls, guys in ties, while students guzzle handles of vodka. Not for nothing is a UVA student named nicknamed Oahu. An undergrad was like to explain, though delivered from a Long Point Cavalier fans, Oahu is also a fish that can drink twice his own body weight. This is about half of the text. I will pause. This has been Tom Duty, middle-aged American living in New Jersey near the Lincoln Tunnel. If you were to visit my website, you would type Howdy Doody into Google. You'll find the correct spelling of the famous puppet. You then combine Tom Duty in a Google search for my site. Thank you for listening. Have a good day, good evening, or restful night's sleep. Ciao.